When she got her memories from her so-called past life, it felt as if her lifelong partner had died. She was crying, mumbling this was too cruel, this couldn't be. She would never get to eat her favorite hamburger, beef bowl or ramen ever again. 5 years later, her mother enters the kitchen angry. She's cooking again and deep frying no less. Her mother has told her a million times that she cannot keep doing that. Oil and firewood are expensive. She replies she has to be able to make snacks at the very least. It is part of her bridal training. Her mother says only nobles and royals eat snacks. She knows that and questions whose bride is she training to be. She reminds her, besides she is already 15 and doesn't have a single prospect. She admits her mother is right, bridal training was just an excuse. Even in her past life as an adult, she never did anything like that. As someone who found refuge in food in an age of plenty, she finds the food in this world a bit bland. There is one thing she prioritizes over something like finding love. It is an ambition she has held on to since the day she got her memories back. Even them not existing in this world can't stop her because she has decided she will recreate them herself. She will reunite with the food from her past life while she still draws breath. In the 5 years since, she has succeeded in recreating a few dishes and some seasonings. There is no end to the search for flavor, and so she plans to spend the rest of her life mooching off. She means she just plans to live with her folks and continue cooking. A knock echoes through the room. Standing at the door is the head maid from the royal palace. Shirley nearly sends her mother flying as she rushes to welcome the guest into their grimy little home. Over there, Shirley realizes this lady seems to have some business with her, but what could someone as refined as her want? The woman then remarks she hears she likes to cook unusual dishes. Shirley admits she has had her parents and neighbors try some things she has made, if that is what she means. The head maid, despite knowing it may be presumptuous of her, requests her to make something for her. Shirley asks right now, and says unfortunately she has run out of ingredients. But her mom snaps at her not to lie, reminding her she was making something just a little minute ago. That includes the thing she has cooling off in the well in the back too. Moments later, she serves her dish with a pout. The head maid eyes it carefully and asks what is this? Shirley replies those are potato chips. Potato chips. First, thinly slice some potatoes and soak them in salt water. Then, after making sure they have been truly dried, fry them. Once done, flavor by sprinkling salt at first glance. It's a simple snack. However, the flavor can vary greatly depending on how dry the slices are, how long they have been fried for and how thick they have been cut. It actually requires a lot of attention to detail. The head maid asks how does one eat this? Shirley tells her to go ahead and grab one using her hands and bite into it. She should feel the crunch. The head maid picks one up and takes a bite. She seems to enjoy it. One turns into another, and soon she's eaten the whole thing. It's really good, she says. Is this potato? It doesn't taste like any she knows. Shirley explains that is because in this kingdom it is standard for potatoes to be steamed or boiled. The head maid picks up on her words in this kingdom and asks if she's been to another. The question makes her jolt in shock. She imagines a wanted poster with her face on it, nailed to every wall in the kingdom. And quickly blurts out no, she hasn't. That is not what she meant. Since her father is a merchant, she has just heard rumors of interesting dishes from other places. The head maid says in any case that was quite the interesting dish and then points out another one asking what is this? Shirley replies this is the king of all snacks, the flan. A dish made by mixing eggs, sugar and milk and then steaming it, a jiggling thing. It's pretty easy to recreate it in this world, but the ingredients are not as cheap as they were in her past life. On top of that there isn't anything as convenient as a refrigerator. If she's not careful, all those expensive ingredients just go to waste. She cannot believe how luxurious her life used to be. The head maid asks Shirley is this something she created as well? She replies something like that, knowing she's lying. It cannot be helped though, if she doesn't, things will get complicated. She apologizes to whoever invented flan in her past life. She imagines it was like barren flan or something. She pokes the dish with her spoon, asking if it's made by hardening eggs. Shirley explains there's caramel at the bottom and suggests eating it together. One bite in, a smile lights up her face. She says this is superb. It melts in her mouth, leaving behind a lovely sweetness. She can really sense the effort Shirley put into it. This time Shirley smiles because that compliment is supposed to be for her. The head maid then asks why this pairing, the sweet flan and the salty potato something, she doesn't feel they quite match. But Shirley tells her she's dead wrong. This is the ultimate combination. The sweet, soft flan and the fragrant salty potato chip. It is precisely because they are opposites that it works. Eating them together brings out the absolute best in each other, the limitless possibilities of flavor, and that is why they must be partners. The offer to cook at the royal palace comes out of nowhere. Just as quickly Shirley turns it down. Her mom screams, "What is she saying?" And adds, "Doesn't she get how rude it is to refuse an offer from the palace?" But the head maid claims she is merely someone who works in the palace, she won't do anything because she refuses. However, she is curious as to why. Saying cooking at the palace is the highest honor, does she not agree? When Shirley hesitates, she tells her to answer truthfully. She doesn't need to mind her. She really blurts out she only cooks for herself. Since her cooking is for her own entertainment, serving in the royal palace feels wrong. The head maid simply says she sees. Shirley thinks to herself she wouldn't be able to research her own dishes, moreover cooking is supposed to be for her, herself and her. Just as Shirley begins to decline, the head maid cuts in. That's unfortunate. At the palace she can use the finest cookware and bountiful ingredients, and she will be allowed to research new dishes to her heart's desire. Shirley quickly tells Madame Claire she would like to work at the palace immediately, and so she began her job at the royal palace. She felt sorry for her mother and father, but if it meant she could cook what she wanted, she was a woman who would sell her soul to the devil. Madame Claire on the way told her there was something they must do first. Meanwhile, the prince tells Lord Miles he has considered his request to raise taxes. However, he must object, it would put a strain on the people's livelihoods. However, Miles argues that if he is too lenient on the people, they will become bloated and conceited. Not to mention, there is no guarantee that they will not be invaded from elsewhere. He questions should they not gather their resources to prepare for such an occasion. However, the prince declares the people are the kingdom, they shall not cause them to suffer unduly. Shirley stares, stunned, as she sees the prince. He says to Lord Miles if he exhausts the people with tricks, he exhausts the kingdom, and to leave immediately. Madame Claire tells Shirley that is Prince William. His father has fallen ill, and at the age of 10, he currently rules the kingdom in his stead. Shirley notes he is virtually expressionless. Madame Claire tells Shirley she should consider serving him. Shirley asks so when she said she would be cooking in the palace. Madame Claire cuts in, saying meals for the royal family are taken care of by the chefs. However, the job of making the prince's snacks falls to her. To that end, she has recruited young women who specializes in making snacks and have them diligently work at it every day. She turns to her and declares starting today, Shirley is a snack maid. She will make snacks for the prince. So in other words, she makes snacks for the prince and gets paid for it, then uses other people's money to research more stuff. This is the best gig ever. She notices other maids nearby, maybe she can just ask them what kind of snacks the prince likes. But then she pauses. The scent of something baking floats to her nose. The next thing she knows, she's in the kitchen, jaw-dropping. It's massive, bustling with people. There's even a stovetop and a refrigerator. Madame Claire informs her these were made by a palace witch and asks them how does she know how to use them. She replies these look just like the things she fantasized about having. Madame Claire asks everyone to stop what they are doing and gather here. She informs them they have a newcomer starting today and tells Shirley to introduce herself. She greets them all. They all frown in her direction and a thought creeps in, is she not welcome here? A maid steps forward saying every team is currently full. She believes it is unnecessary to add another maid. Shirley thinks everyone has their friends already, so it is a natural reaction to a strange new member. The head maid tells them not to worry, she will be in charge of her own team. They stare at her in disbelief before one of them bursts out, having one's own team is an honor reserved for those who have been recognized after working tirelessly under their master. How can a newcomer simply be heard of their own team? Madame Claire shoots her a glare and asks her if she is defying her. When she tries to speak up, she silences Jacqueline. She tells them she personally scouted Shirley Albera and that she can create unique dishes. She won't accept any objections. She turns to her with an innocent face, thinking is she considering how things are going to be like for her after this? Madame Claire then asks if there is anyone who wishes to volunteer for Shirley's assistance. No one steps up, so she chooses and herself, saying this will be a great opportunity for her. She then turns to Shirley, telling her to ask and if she has any questions before leaving. Jacqueline shifts her anger to her, saying she barges in here, unannounced, acting like a big shot. What the heck is her deal? Is she a famous chef or something? Shirley smiles and replies she is just a small-town girl who cooks for fun. The head maid suddenly came to her house and asked her to work in the palace, so here she is. Jacqueline yells, why would the head maid personally scout some small-town girl? Shirley replies that is something she would like to know herself. Another maid steps forward, telling her to stop. She has no idea what the head maid is thinking, but they should introduce themselves out of courtesy. Turning to Shirley, she reveals her name is Christiana and she's the leader of Team 1. She also tells Shirley to refer to them as their elder sisters. Shirley thinks this type of thing exists, it's not really bad. Calling her little sister, she says, and she understands she may be mute but she is looking forward to working with them. Christiana realizes she meant to say new and wishes her good luck, then turning to the maids, she tells them to return to their stations, leaving them standing in awkward silence. And finally speaks up, saying she has only been here for half a year. She also calls her elder sister, but Aunt tells her no need for the formality, she can just call her and Shirley then calls her Anne and warns things might be tough with her around. And mutters to lie about that part next time. She then glances at the clock and tells her it's almost snack time, they have to get ready. Shirley's drooling already and mutters with a scowl not for them. She tells Shirley to listen closely. Their job is to put everything into the prince's snack time. Claiming this is a battlefield, that's right for the snack maids. Later, and greets His Highness, referring to him as young master. Shirley mumbles young master, so she explains it's customary for the maids to refer to him as young master. They then present saker to young master. A type of cake made in the kingdom that mixes dried fruits with a batter made of flour, eggs and butter, among other things. By the way, saker is what they call it here. She doesn't know what it was called in her past life. It has a crumbly texture so much so that apparently it's tough eating it without a drink. Shirley watches too many sakers being served to him and thinks that's way too much for one person. She wonders if it is because of the custom to prepare more than enough food for someone of high status. Madame Claire asks the young master if there is one that he wishes to have more of. He replies 2 more plates of Team 1's dish, leaving Shirley shocked over how much he eats. Later, the maid talks about how he didn't eat much again today. This is terrible. He used to ask for 5 more plates. Shirley listens to them with disbelief. A girl mumbles he only ate half of their team's offering, they are pathetic. She wonders was it the mixture of fruits? Perhaps they need to select even better ones. Suddenly Jacqueline appears, calling her a nui, saying she bets she's wondering why they only serve saker. She, the leader of Team 4, might be willing to tell her. Shirley replies in that case please do elder sister, but Jacqueline tells her not to call her, that she would feel awful if she was her younger sister. She reveals saker was the young master's mother's, in other words, the queen consort's favorite snack. Shirley begins to say if she remembers correctly. Jacqueline cuts her off saying that is right, she passed away half a year ago. The king loved her highness deeply and as a result of his sorrow, fell ill himself. Consequently, the young master had to rule the kingdom. She thinks that was around the time he stopped smiling as well. That is why they always serve saker to remember her highness. Crumbly cakes are not Shirley's cup of tea. She prefers moist cakes like these, to put it simply, in saker is not in her wheelhouse. But as she is served saker, she thanks them. She may not like it but her motto is to eat what has been placed in front of her. As Shirley munches on the food, she's surprised to find it actually tastes really good. Jacqueline, however, remains unimpressed and remarks that it doesn't hold a candle to her elder sister in Team 1, referring to Christiana. Shirley, still chewing, replies with an amazed wow and casually helps herself to more. Jacqueline snaps at her, demanding who said she could take that many, but Shirley, unfazed, simply asks if there's any tea. Jacqueline snaps no one's bringing tea, but Shirley complains that it's unfair to expect someone to properly judge food without a drink, adding that if Jacqueline truly wanted feedback, it would have been proper to prepare tea in the first place. That gets Jacqueline storming over, slamming down a cup of tea in front of her. Then and asks if Shirley honestly thinks she can make something this good, reminding her that the young master is quite a connoisseur who won't eat just anything. Wishing her luck, Jacqueline walks away. Shirley thinks she's unique. She doesn't hate her and then thinks about the young master. Even though he's a connoisseur, he didn't move a single facial muscle during snack time. Later in the kitchen, and suggests they make something and says she'd like to see Shirley in action, but Shirley is too caught up marveling at the cacao beans she found. When and asks if she's even listening, Shirley doesn't answer, still wondering how they even got these. and replies she thinks they got that from the palace gardens. The garden which grows rare ingredients from seeds collected from around the world in the gardens behind the palace. Confused, Shirley mumbles the garden witch. So, and clarifies she uses magic to grow fruits and vegetables. There are witches employed by the palace. This leaves Shirley in awe. She knew witches existed in this world, but making refrigerators and stove tops is pretty remarkable. Then and says there is a more important issue at hand though, can she even make saker? Shirley admits she has never made it before and tells her she doesn't know until she tries it. They should do their best. 1 week later the snack time begins. Lady Claire informs the prince a new team will be participating starting today, and it is Shirley's team. Shirley steps forward and introduces herself as the leader of Team 5. She is honored to serve him, and hopes he eats it, reminding herself they have been practicing this whole time, there's no way it is bad. 5 days later, he ate at least one for the first 4 days. On the 5th day he finally stopped eating from their plate. It probably meant what they made wasn't even worth trying. Jacqueline called her idiot, saying didn't she tell her and to pack her things and get out of here already. Shirley left after telling and she would clear her head. Every single day she has to make a cake she doesn't like. And then the prince doesn't even eat it and she has to dispose of everything, feeling guilty the whole time. Most of the day is filled by her duties as a maid and making saker. She hasn't even been able to cook anything for herself. Moreover, her co-workers avoid her. Shirley at last considers gathering her things and leave. But just then, Madame Claire comes over and calls out to her. She admits she doesn't think she understands why she brought her here and asks her where does her value lie. Their job is to put everything into making sure the prince enjoys his snack time. She thinks would the head maid personally scout some small town girl? It was because she liked to cook unusual dishes. She mutters what has she been doing and rushes back to the kitchen, telling Anne to help her out, there's something she wants to try. Later, they both look like they haven't slept for days, prompting the others to ask if the two of them are alright. Shirley says she's totally fine, so fine in fact that she could run around the palace 100 times. When snack time comes Anne nervously asks Shirley if they did their best, she replies calmly that it'll be fine, she's sure of it. Just then, Madame Claire calls for Team 5 to present their dish. They serve it to the young master, and to everyone's shock, it's not saker. He glances at the plate and asks, what is this? Shirley replies confidently, it is tricolor bread. Jacqueline, visibly irritated, mutters that she's serving something other than saker. What is she trying to pull? The young master points at the top and asks about the thing on the surface. Shirley tells him, it's a smiley face. He stares at it for a beat before smiling himself, then asks how he's supposed to eat it. She answers however he likes. Each part has a different feeling, so he can enjoy them all. As he takes a bite, he murmurs, what is this? It's delicious. Her eyes instantly light up, a spark of pure excitement spreading across her face. She tells him the part the young master ate was filled with chocolate cream. Once she decided to serve something other than saker. She gambled everything on chocolate, something that she loves from the bottom of her heart. The main ingredient in chocolate cacao is quite nutritious. Apparently nobles in her past life would eat it in salads. Similarly, this world still hasn't developed cacao into chocolate quite yet. So she decided to make it herself. But first came the preparation. It starts with roasting the beans with the skin on. Once it can be easily removed, peel off the skin and remove the insides. After that, using a mortar, the beans must be ground again and again. This was the most difficult task. The cacao beans just refuse to grind into a fine enough powder. If there are clumps, the texture won't be good, even more so when trying to make chocolate cream. The two of them kept grinding away for hours and hours, even through the night. They felt like servants grinding away while being whipped. Indeed, they were servants to chocolate. After somehow getting it fine enough, they placed the mixture over a bain-marie. When it was a nice thick consistency, they added a large amount of sugar. All that remained was to put it into a container and cool it off in the refrigerator. Then they cut up and melted that chocolate. After mixing it with a cream made from milk, they added butter. They completed the chocolate cream that they used. Shirley once made chocolate from cacao in her past life. She remembers thinking she is never doing this again. The prince happily takes another bite and says the moist bread goes well with the filling. Admitting it is quite good, he reminds she said the other parts have different fillings. She smiles, recommending him to eat them to find out what is inside, and he does, saying it is good too. That smiley face there is filled with custard cream. This sweet son of a gun was way easier to make than the chocolate. There's some technique involved, but that falls under her area of expertise. He tries the next layer and exclaims, this one's delicious too. That one is some homemade strawberry jam she brought with her. She made sure to open the best one. On their own, they are tasty as chocolate bread, custard cream bread and jam bread. All of them are pastries that she loved in her past life. The miracle pastry that combined all three is called tricolor bread. William soon finishes his plate and looks up at her, saying he is already done. Was there only one? She smiles and assures him there's more, hurrying to bring another. As he munches on it, clearly enjoying himself, he says this is really delicious. He especially likes this black filling. This is the first time she was moved in such a way. She always thought of food as something only for herself, yet as she saw him smile. Madame Claire then asks the young master, would he like anything today? But he replies he is fine for today. She then turns to Shirley, telling her she made quite the interesting dish today, and asks her what made her decide on that. She flinches but then composes herself, replying the dish she served today is special to her. She wanted the young master to try it as well. Also, she wanted him to enjoy his time here if possible together with many different flavors, for that and she put her everything into making it. Madame Claire says she believes that to be a good line of thinking. Providing the ever-busy young master a wonderful snack time. William looks at her, asking who is she. With a beaming smile she replies she is the leader of Team 5. Her name is Shirley. He then asks if she can serve the same thing tomorrow as well. Shirley freezes, caught off guard, while Anne looks equally horrified at the thought, already imagining all the grinding they'd have to do. Completely unaware, he thanks them with a small smile, saying he's looking forward to it. After he leaves, all the maids surround them, asking what was that, what did the two of them make? And the young master even smiled. While Jacqueline screams why didn't they serve Saker? That was unfair. Shirley quickly turns to Anne and says she's leaving, then rushes away from the crowd, weaving through the others to catch up with Madame Claire. She tells her this was her intention from the beginning for her to serve something different and change the custom of always serving Saker. Madame Claire tells herself to keep this to herself, and reveals the young master doesn't really care for Saker. But, she points out, he eats it so much. She admits he loved snack time with the queen. However, their preferences were not the same. The young master, he preferred moist cakes. Shirley questions why did he say anything? It is his snack time. She replies he didn't want to insult the hard work and devotion of the maids. And saying he doesn't want Saker would be like denying the memory of her highness. It isn't something he can declare so easily, nor could she, knowing the effort the maids put in. Madame Claire also admits she thought she would immediately serve what she liked without care, however she thought wrong. As Madame Claire turns away, Shirley makes faces behind her back, thinking bitterly, so that's how this old hag sees her. Is that it? But the moment Madame Claire glances back, Shirley instantly straightens up. With a composed tone Madame Claire says, she hopes she continues to make snack time entertaining for the young master. Shirley's beams and promises to keep that in mind. And so her life as a maid in the palace really began. That life would truly be a battlefield. This incident happened 3 days after she served the tricolor bread. Late at night, as she carries a lamp through the quiet corridors, a man suddenly rushes toward her and pulls out a knife. A knight shouts from behind, calling out that it's an intruder and sprints after him. The man bolts, disappearing into the shadows and she stumbles to the ground. The knight crouches beside her and asks if she is all right. She thanks him as he takes her hand and helps her up. Then he looks at her and asks what is she doing at this hour. She replies she was doing prep for the young master's snack. The knight admits it was their fault that an intruder entered here and apologizes for that. And promises to apprehend him with the utmost haste. But she calls after him, asking for his name. He replies it is Lawrence. He is the captain of the chivalric order. She gives a courteous bow and says her name is Shirley, a new maid in the palace. She shall return his favor someday. He smiles, saying she's quite the unusual one, making her wonder if she said something weird. The next morning, Anne is shocked and asks her if she's serious, telling her Sir Lawrence is the young, skilled captain of the order. And declares if it were in her place, meeting him in such a fateful way, if she would cling on to him and sear it in her memory forever. Jacqueline rushes at the same time, exclaiming she cannot believe she caught a glimpse of Sir Lawrence first thing in the morning. Today is a good day already. Then her gaze lands on Team 5 and she inquires if they're prepping that stuff again. Shirley replies yes, they are explaining chocolate takes a crazy amount of time to prepare after all and asks if she can help her. In exchange she will teach her how to make chocolate. But this offends Jacqueline, who snaps she has nothing of value to teach her. She can keep that gross black stuff all to herself. And also scolds her that she shouldn't go around freely teaching people how to make chocolate. But Shirley argues they are reaching their limit, don't she think? The two of them alone cannot keep doing this. If they got some of our elder sisters to help them out but and cuts her off, saying does she honestly think they would even give them the time of the day? But then she shifts the conversation to that intruder from that night, saying apparently there are going to be guards at snack time today. At snack time, Lawrence stands directly behind the prince. When he spots Shirley, he murmurs, "It's her from last night," then asks gently if she slept well. She offers a courteous bow and thanks him politely, leaving everyone around them stunned in silent disbelief. Madame Claire announces to begin today's snack time. It is mainly different kinds of bread, all of them on the moist side. After that incident, everyone switched to this. However, this is no problem for her. She presents to him chocolate cornets. He enjoys it and exclaims it is so sweet. What lingers in the mouth is the sweetness of the large chocolate along with the flavor of the small bits of bread. However, as he continues to eat, the ratio of bread begins to increase. Truly the craftiest of pastries. She wants to eat some too. Just then she finds Lawrence looking at them too. The prince asks her if he wants one too. But Lawrence replies he wouldn't dare. He cannot interfere with his meal. Also, he doesn't care for sweet things. The girls are clearly impressed by his words, whispering among themselves, but Shirley simply looks at him with a strange expression. Later, she approaches Madame Claire and admits she'd like to start making snacks for the soldiers. She says as thanks for hard work searching the castle, she would like to encourage them with something sweet. Madame Claire says it's true they should probably thank them for helping during that incident with her. However, the amount of soldiers in the castle numbers in the triple digits. Can she make enough between her preparations for snack time? Shirley is aware there are a large number of soldiers in the castle for a variety of reasons, and making enough to feed all of them herself is indeed a tough task. She tells Madame Claire if she were to get in to help her out, maybe they would manage it, but the head maid sighs and comments she really only sees what is right in front of her and that she shall tell all of the maids to help. Shirley blurts out she cannot ask elder sisters to do that, though. But Madame Claire says the maids are all in the same boat. When one is saved, they are all saved. Not to mention she is an outcast as it is. She should take this opportunity to form bonds with her sisters. Madame Claire walks off, leaving Shirley alone with her thoughts. She recalls Jacqueline snapping at her, saying she had nothing of value to teach and then questioning if she really thought they would even give her the time of the day. Shirley sighs, thinking it would be nice if they at least accepted her as a maid. Later, one maid asks if the dough's texture is right, another checks on the mold size. She realizes all those concerns were completely unfounded. However, Jacqueline seems mad, wondering why does she have to help her out. However, leader of Team 2 Clara tells her they are comrades, plus doing things like this once in a while isn't that bad. Leader of Team 3, Arville adds she has been interested in the things she makes. This is a good chance to steal some of her techniques. Jacqueline yells there's no need to steal her techniques. All of her sweets are much better than anything Shirley makes. Her things are unusual, that's it, but Avril counters if it makes the young master happy, then it's correct. That is their job after all. Christiana turns to Shirley and tells her she doesn't have much experience with deep frying. There are snacks in this kingdom that use oil. Cooking oils have been used by humans since ancient times. However, baked and steamed dishes have been the standard for nobles. Fried snacks are not widespread in the palace. With a smile, she turns to Christiana and decides to show her how to do it first. As Shirley deep fries the dough, and leans over and asks, "Is it done?" She replies not yet. They have to wait until it is cooled down. Once it's ready, Shirley urges them to try it, proudly exclaiming this is a donut. As they each take a bite, excited chatter fills the room. Christiana suggests making the dough even moister next time, realizing the trick is in frying it to keep it fluffy. They all agree they love how light it is, far better than something thick and heavy. Another maid adds it tastes like sin. She bets this would do the trick when they are tired. Shirley thinks they quickly got the hang of it. Like they said, the biggest selling point of the donut is its fluffy texture. Crumbly ones are fine and all, but to her, this is the perfect donut. She informs them that is all they have to do. The important thing is to make sure the donut rests and be mindful of the frying time and temperature. Shirley then bows and thanks them for their help. She is counting on all of them. Avril giggles and says she has got some sugar stuck to her face. Once again, chatter fills the space up. Christiana then approaches Lawrence and his knights, apologizing to bother them during his break, but thanking them very much for all their hard work these past few days. This is a token of appreciation from all the maids. She reminds her that he saved one of their maids the other day and he is still tirelessly searching for the intruder. It may not be much, but they hope they enjoy it. After thanking her, Lawrence tells his men they have worked so hard for their sakes, they should be grateful. They eat to their heart's content, savoring every bite. One of them admits he's not usually a fan of sweets, but this is seriously good. The other is unable to believe the maids did this for them and wonders if it is really okay. He is so glad he became a soldier. American police officers like donuts. That is her image, anyway. She's glad it worked out similarly. But her real target is right here. She walks over to Lawrence, who looks stunned to see her and thanks him very much for the other day. She knows he doesn't care for sweet things but insists he try one. He blurts out he guesses he could. A knight normally has no need for sweet things. But since she offered just then, someone yells there is the intruder on top of a beam in the observation topper. His whole demeanor instantly shifts. His creeps at his men to surround the tower and not to let him get away. She murmurs what an awful timing. After that, the soldier successfully apprehended the intruder and returned triumphantly. They ate up all the donuts. Apparently the culprit was a famous thief. She prays he loses that thrill-seeking spirit of his though. Well, whatever the case was, everything was all right. Once again, she approaches Lawrence. As the person in charge, he was busy with interrogations and the like. He didn't come back to eat any of the donuts. She hands him a small basket of donuts, saying softly, he didn't get a chance to eat any earlier. He realizes these are different from the earlier ones, so she explains she tried to recreate donuts from a certain famous chain and she's proud of them. He looks surprised but then shakes his head, saying no, he will refrain. Knights do not willingly eat sweet things. She smirks and repeats they don't. She points out there is some sugar on his face, making him freeze, but then he quickly wipes it away. She points out he loves sweets so much that earlier he was licking the sugar off his hand, so why is he hiding that? He admits his father is very strict. A knight should be like this, he would always say. Sweet things were particularly forbidden. On top of that, he is the captain of the order. He must uphold the dignity and appearance of the knights, but she cuts him off by pressing a finger on her lips and then tells him to let her know if he ever wants something sweet, she would prepare something. He asks why would she go that far for him. She replies there are two reasons. One is, of course, expressing her gratitude for saving him. He questions what is the other. She winks at him, saying he is a fellow sweets lover, they should help each other out when they can. Men who like sweets often try to hide it. She witnessed this many times in her past life. However, refraining from eating what they want is a waste. That is why she shared some. That is how it is. They quickly duck behind the bushes, watching as he eats, clearly enjoying every bite. As Shirley quietly observes him, she starts to understand why all the maids go crazy over him. Then he smirks and says she really is unusual. From that day on, she silently referred to him as the Donut Knight. She feels like she did something good. Plus those donors she made for herself too. Of course. She has the same things that someone had been eating so deliciously in front of her, waiting in her room. Just then, she feels a tug at her apron and turns to find the prince standing there. She nearly jumps, blurting out why young master. He looks at her flatly and says he heard she served snacks to the soldiers. For the maids to make snacks for someone other than a royal is to give someone of a lower rank, something a royal has heard. Now that she thinks about it, she should have gotten his approval. She wonders if she's going to be terminated. But to her surprise, he pouts, asking where is his share. And adds they said it was something fluffy with a hole in it, something they had never seen before. That is not fair. In the end, she ends up bringing him to her room and he enjoys the donuts she had saved for herself. The prince also asks what is this hole for. She replies she believes it is to make sure it is evenly fried. As heat has a harder time reaching the middle. He remarks what a strange way to say that though. Wasn't she the one who created this? She can only offer her go-to excuse and say her father is a merchant, so she heard a rumor of a snack that looked like this. As she watches William eat, she thinks maybe the reason she had to give up her secret stash was karma for using this lie over and over again. But then to her shock he offers her the other one and suggests they eat together. She insists it is fine, but then takes it from him, exclaiming thank you. She digs in, a look of satisfaction spreading across her face. She loves it when they are freshly made, the sugar on the surface pairs well with the bread, but she also loves it when they are cooled off a little too. The prince warns her this cannot leave this room. It would be a problem if someone found out that he was eating a snack in one of the maid's quarters before dinner. She exclaims, of course, young master. With a playful hush, he lifts a finger to his lips and says it's their little secret. Later that night in the kitchen, Jacqueline stares at the cacao beans thinking to herself that without these, Shirley is nothing. The incident took place a week after the commotion with the donuts. And looked terrified as she blurted out this couldn't be happening. All the cacao are all gone. Now they wouldn't be able to make any chocolate. Shirley was shocked as there should have been 3 large bags left. However, Jacqueline said she used them all. Team 5 looked at her in shock, so she asked what is that look for? The ingredients are meant for everyone. It shouldn't be a problem. And knew she was right, the cacao wasn't meant for their use only, but she questioned if she did this to spite them. She declared that now, without the cacao beans, they wouldn't be able to make chocolate and everyone would see that Team 5 is no match for Team 4. And with that, she ran off, laughing like a cartoon villain. Shirley realizes it is something out of a manga. She knew she didn't like her, but she didn't think it was this bad. She consoles Anne, who looks traumatized, and then asks her if she knows where they got the cacao from. And thinks it was grown by the witch in the palace gardens. They reach the garden and Shirley freezes, stunned by the dozens of different plants growing there. Ignoring Anne's words that she shouldn't go in, she rushes in, only to be yelled at by a sharp voice. She can't just barge in. A witch steps forward, scowling. Shirley wonders if she's an assistant, but Anne calls her a dummy, saying that's the garden's witch. The witch then says she hasn't seen her around. Is she new? Shirley blurts out they are here to introduce themselves and extends the basket, saying they baked her something. Later, they sit together, chatting casually. The witch introduces herself as Agath, a palace witch. Shirley politely introduces herself and Anne, calling it a pleasure to meet her and referring to her as Madam Witch, but Agath quickly tells them to just call her Agath. She then asks what they've run out of. Shirley begins to explain, mentioning the item vaguely, but Agath tells them to wait a second, let me finish this first. This jam is really good. She sees she is putting her strawberries to good use. Later, she leads them into the garden as they explain they're making a snack using cacao. Agath admits she can't even imagine what it is. And promises to bring some when they make it again. It is really good, and Shirley is even more incredible than that. But then the witch suddenly pauses. Only now, she recalls, cacao isn't something they can normally get in the kingdom. The stuff being grown here won't be ready to harvest for a few months. And panics and asks her cannot she use her powers to do something. Agath tells her to keep dreaming. She may be a witch, but she doesn't have any bizarre powers like that. She sinks to the ground mumbling, so then it really will take a few months. Shirley guesses they will have to think of a different snack. She asks Agath if they can walk around the garden a bit more. Agath gives her a thumbs up and says of course. Agath mentions that rare plants are usually brought to this garden. Shirley mumbles it's not here, and glances at her and asks what's wrong. But Shirley quickly brushes it off, it's nothing. But then her eyes widen and she exclaims there it is, tomatoes. This is one ingredient that was common in her past life, but she hasn't seen it once here. She was beginning to think it didn't exist in this world. Agath says she is surprised that she touched it with her bare hands. They look poisonous, so no one goes near them. Now that she thinks about it, in her past life in Europe, she heard that although people were aware of the existence of tomatoes, it took a while before they started eating them. She blurts out her father is a merchant, the same excuse. Agath thinks so, that is how she knew that they were not harmful. She then says she knows what to make, and asks her is she going to use that something. She turns to her and replies that is the plan. But Agath tells them that won't work. The prince hates vegetables. Anne and Shirley glance at each other. That has to beat up on the person who grew them, these beautiful vegetables being rejected. However, she is completely against forcing someone to eat something they do not like. Adding suffering to what should be a fun time is out of the question. That being said, she declares turning something hated into something delicious is the secret power of those who cook. Agath mumbles she is more witch-like than her. Meanwhile, Jacqueline recalled how the maids talked about both chocolate and donuts being a hit throughout the castle. They believed Shirley's becoming some kind of a mini celebrity. Christiana said now Team 5 was getting all the praise. They were just a different caliber from them in Team 4. One of the maids also questioned if she asked to transfer to Team 5, she wondered if Jacqueline would throw a tantrum. Now she stands just outside the kitchen, overhearing the compliments about the delicious sauce Shirley made. Later Madame Claire announces the start of today's snack time. Shirley, practically buzzing with excitement, hopes to serve hers quickly before it gets cold. When her name is called, she steps forward and presents the dish, hot dogs. Madame Claire asks, is this really considered a snack? Before Shirley can answer, the prince chimes in, he is fine with it, then points curiously, what's this red stuff? She replies it is called a ketchup, a very versatile condiment. First, boil the tomatoes, then peel the skin off. Next, chop them along with garlic and onions and mash them until they become liquid-like. Second, heat the mixture up in a pot, then add sugar, salt, pepper, bay leaves and apple vinegar, which she made herself. Once it begins to boil over, the heat and shimmer until the liquid evaporates. Then it is done and everyone's favorite ketchup is made. It's the star of the show this time. Shirley admits it still doesn't exist in this world, so it is her job to spread the word. The first step is getting the young master on board. Suddenly, Jacqueline bursts in, yelling at the young master to stop, it's made from tomatoes. The prince pauses, shocked. One of the maid's questions, are not those poisonous? Jacqueline sharply accuses her of lying to the young master and trying to feed him vegetables, knowing he hates them. Plus that ingredient is rumored to have poison, so she asks what is the meaning of this. Shirley wonders if she was watching her, she got her good. At this rate she will be suspected of attempted poisoning. She states it is not poisonous, that's simply a superstition. Also, this is made from a vegetable that Agath worked so hard to grow and is filled with nutritions. But he says quietly, almost sadly, a vegetable. The words make Shirley freeze in shock. And is already trembling on the ground. This isn't good, she has to do something. Madame Claire sighs, clearly disappointed, and tells Shirley to take it away. But Shirley suddenly declares she will test it for poison right now. Everyone stares at her in stunned silence as she suddenly grabs the hot dog and starts chomping on it without hesitation. The sausages, made from pork of the highest quality, have a slight crunch from the casing that leads to the juicy meat. All of that comes together in the mouth with the sweet ketchup and wheat fragrance from the bread. To Shirley, this truly is happiness. After finishing the hot dog, Shirley exclaims that it's delicious and cheerfully says she will take another. But before she can reach for it, the prince grabs her hand and tells her that's enough, she doesn't need to test it for poison. This time, he picks up the hot dog himself and takes a bite without hesitation. He pauses, clearly surprised, and declares his is delicious. Is this really made from a vegetable? Shirley assures yes it is. With a small wink, he says he likes this ketchup. She keeps her expression composed, offering a modest smile, but inside, she's practically bursting with joy. It appears she has overcome this crisis. And calls to Jacqueline, demanding what that was all about, but Jacqueline scoffs she has quite the mouth for an underling. And snaps back that it doesn't matter, she's gone too far and enough is enough. Shirley tries to calm things down, saying it's fine since everything worked out, but refuses to back down, saying she's being too lenient and can't forgive something like this. She demands someone call an authority figure. Christiana steps in to intervene, but Jacqueline lashes out, furious that everyone seems so willing to accept Shirley. They have served so hard as maids with honor and status, yet this ridiculous woman comes here with strange ingredients and does whatever she pleases. Are they all not frustrated? Clara tells Jacqueline to knock it off. Jacqueline asks Clara if she will accept her. She guesses that has to be expected of someone who shamelessly helped make these donuts. Stunned, Clara asks what did she say? Jacqueline finally loses it and screams at Shirley to shut up, shouting that someone like her is the last person she would ever trust. She yells at Shirley to get out and leave their place, then stomps off. Shirley believes nothing she said was wrong. The young master eats their strange new dishes every day, but that means he stopped eating what the other teams serve. She has changed the essence of what this place was. It is not surprising that some of them hate her. And asks if she's alright, and Shirley suddenly remembers she can't keep moping. She's caught up now. There's something she has to make. She smiles and says she is fine, she has got a new idea. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.